Hey, how's it going everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Hot Wheel Icon Stories, where we crack Hot Wheels and talk about the iconic cars they're modeled after. This episode will be the first in a series of episodes dedicated to fan favorite and cultural phenomenon, the GTR. And of course, we need to start the series where it all began, the Yokosuka GTR. So in my hands I have the Series 1 Japan Historics 2000 GTX, a very lucky find I recently came across. Picked it up from a local collector who was selling it for a great price, but let's get this thing open so we can take a closer look. Just kidding, I can't, I'm sorry. I'll be cracking this version instead. I know I'm letting you guys down, but the Series 1 Japan Historics version is too rare. This is actually a really clean casting of the Yokosuka GTR. I like the detail in the oil cooler up front, the race covers on the headlights, or technically they're headlight deletes, but they nailed the wheel arches, like the fender flares, and I like the decals. I wish they had the details in the front and the rear, like the rear taillights. Let's take a closer look at the Yokosuka GTR. Let me first start by giving a shout out to the guys over at Japanese Nostalgia Car, Ben and Dan. If you guys are watching this, I hope I make you guys proud. The Skyline was actually launched by the Prince Motor Company in April 1957. Then in 1964, the Prince Skyline GT was created. With a 2.0 liter G7 straight six, it was devised to race. This idea grew into something unimaginably larger. In 1966, Prince merged with Nissan, and while the Prince name was phased out, the Skyline could not be. In 1968, the C10 Skyline was launched and the iconic GTR badge was created in February of '69. The first GTR was a 4-door Skyline and packed a 2-liter 24-valve dual overhead straight six and produced 158 horsepower at 7,000 RPM and 131 foot-pound of torque at 5,600, called the S20. This was unheard of at the time. The design was so good that it shares many similarities with the RB26. And without this masterpiece of an engine, there would be no B18s, no 4AGs, no SR20s, no 2JZs. But let's pause for a minute and just take in the sounds of this GTR ripping through the track. In Japan, the GTRs reigned over the track for over 2 years, completely dominating all the competition and winning 50 races, with its first win on May 3rd of 1969, consecutively winning 49 races before being stopped, and with the 50th win achieved immediately after that loss. 7 of those race victories were won by Motoharu Kurosawa, also known as Gansan. Let's go over some fun facts. The first generation GTR is known as the Yokosuka, Hako meaning box, and Suka is short for Sukare. I cannot pronounce that, but it's short for what the car is named after. The 4-door model GTR had the internal code PGC10, and then in March 1971 it was joined by the 2-door coupe, which we have here, known as the KP-GC10. And a note, this casting is labeled as a 2000 GTX, which had a less powerful engine. Now here's a little sad fact about the Yokosuka. Fewer than 2,000 first-generation GTRs were built in both 4-door and 2-door, meaning most GTRs, in parentheses, that we see now are replicas built off of GT or GTX spec cars. I remember back in 2009 at the Japanese Classic Car Show, there was no doubt that the Toyota 2000 GTs and Celicas, the Zs, the RX3s and 4s, they had their admirers there, but the Hakos stole the show. I honestly wish I can crack this Japan Historics version open, because it's a complete replica of the GTR that you guys saw in the clip earlier. I do love the decals, the livery, the RS Watanabe wheels on there. I wish the mainline version had them. So this is the first episode in a series where we'll be going over the GTR specifically, and on the next episode we'll be going over the Skyline 2000 GTR. I started a series for the GTR specifically because there's a history and there's a legend here that can't be covered in just 1 or 2 episodes. We're going to be using multiple episodes to go over multiple generations of the GTRs, so I hope you guys subscribe and stick around. But before you guys go, let's listen to this thing rip the track one more time. Every time I watch that clip, I get the chills. But anyways, if you guys like the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're enjoying the content, consider subscribing. I'm going to be doling out a couple more videos on the GTR, so stick around. Thanks again for watching, guys.